My name is Susan Kaiser Greenland, and I joke about being a recovering lawyer. I was a transactional lawyer for a long time, and now I teach mindfulness to children, teens, and their families, and I train parents and professionals on how to work with children practicing mindfulness. I wrote a book called The Mindful Child and a program called the Inner Kids Program. So this is how we define mindfulness to the adults we're working with, which is a little different than the way we define mindfulness to the children we work with. But for adults, we talk about mindfulness as a way of looking at life experience, both inner experience and outer experience. And we look at life experience first with attention. We have strong, stable attention, with balance, emotional balance, nice and steady in our perception and view, and compassion, with kindness and compassion for ourselves and others. What happens when we start to view our experience in this way is a way of being in the world starts to emerge. And that way of being in the world is a way of being in the world with attention, with balance and compassion. So we talk to adults, the adult community, about mindfulness as a way of looking at the world, which leads to a way of being in the world. I don't think there's anything more important right now than teaching children mindfulness. What we do when we teach children about mindfulness is we teach them how to better see what's happening into and around them more clearly, and we teach them very specific skills that they develop that helps them settle themselves, steady their minds, steady their hearts, so that they can speak and act and be in the world in a way that is kind and compassionate and generous and patient, and it really promotes well-being for the children and for everybody around them. If you wanted to practice mindfulness with children, with your own children, or with children you work with, you start by practicing mindfulness yourself. And there are wonderful, wonderful programs all around now where they teach basic beginning mindfulness in a secular way. And as you begin to practice yourself, it will just become obvious. The mindfulness will start to bubble up in all aspects of your life. And then places where you can drop in mindfulness, drop in activities and integrate them into what you're already doing, they will just show up with the children that are your own or the children you work with. Whether you're working with children who are 4 or 40, it always starts with your own practice. All of mindfulness really emerges from your own mindfulness yourself. As far as the techniques, yeah, they're very different depending on the age of the children. The young children, it's more playful. We really practice a short time, many times. We do it frequently and drop it in during the day. With the older children and the teens, we can start talking about the key concepts of mindfulness that really will impact how they perceive the world, how they see the world, and how they become more aware of what is happening in and around them. I will never forget at my daughter's bat mitzvah. So she was around 13 and my son was around 8. And my son had to get up and he had to read a passage from Anne Frank at the service. And he got up and he just lost his place like anybody would do. And instead of sort of fumbling around, he stopped. He steadied himself by feeling his breathing. And then he went back and he read it. And that was a moment that I knew that what we had been doing at home had actually been integrated into his life. And there are countless stories with people who have taken the Inner Kids program, teachers who talk about how their students integrated in their school or integrated at home or start singing breathing songs in the back seat of cars, all sorts of things like that, where the students actually start teaching their parents mindfulness based on what they've learned in school. Well, there's 2 things to remember about when you're talking about using mindfulness to help with emotional regulation in children. One is that attention is important with emotional regulation. Having children have the capacity to concentrate is really, really important. So any work we do when a child is not upset that helps build attention is going to help them regulate. It's going to help them self-regulate. The other, I think, most magical practice that these old, thousands of years old mindfulness practices have really taught us are practices that I call steadying practices. And these practices that help steady your heart and your mind really involve stopping or pausing and shifting your mind, moving your attention away from what you're thinking about to what you're feeling, to a sensory experience. So these steadying practices really help in any calming problem that you have with a child. If a child is overly upset or overly excited, by stopping and shifting awareness away from what they're upset about to a physical sensation, like the feeling of breathing, for example, can really have a magical effect. So we have a lot of interventions that talk about stopping and thinking. And what I would suggest is that we add another component there. And it's not just me that suggests that this is thousands of years of mindfulness practice. It's more stopping, feeling, really sensing the feeling of the movement of breath. And then as you steady, as you calm a little bit, then think. I think if your children want to sit down for a formal meditation practice, that's fantastic. And I think it's good to encourage them to do it, and I think it's great to accompany them. If they'll allow you to sit with them, that's just fantastic. So that's fantastic if that's what they want to do, but I would never force a child to do that. There's many mindfulness activities that involve brief moments of awareness, stopping and feeling what the bottoms of your feet feel like against the floor. Noticing what's going on in your mind and body while you wait. That's waiting with awareness. Eating just one bite at a time. Instead of eating, just putting the food in your mouth and one bite at a time. Those are brief moments of awareness that can be dropped into what you're doing already. And they have the effect of grounding that I was talking about earlier. They have that steadying effect because basically what you're doing is you're moving your attention away from thinking or analyzing to sensation. There is early research coming out, and the early research is showing improvements mostly in attention, and especially in the students where there is a lower degree of executive functioning than the normal baseline, and it's showing that those students tend to improve. So we're seeing an improvement in attention based on a relatively short intervention of mindfulness, usually somewhere around 8 weeks, a couple of times a week. More and more research is starting to come out, and so we'll have a lot more to talk about soon. With the adult research, there's much more robust research out right now. Inner Kids is a program that has been developed over the course of about 10 years, and it's been based on children ages 4 and up. And in it, we teach these ABCs that I'm talking about of attention, balance, and compassion through small games and activities and songs that we drop in during the course of what people are already doing. So it's really developed for people who are working with children already. It's developed for parents and professionals who have children in their life who want to integrate these mindfulness pieces into what they're already doing. And that's what Inner Kids does. I would like to really emphasize how important it is to practice within a community, to practice with other people who are parents or other people who are professionals, not necessarily even with your children. It's great if the children can come too, but really developing a community of like-minded parents and professionals who want to bring this work into the world in a meaningful way. Because remember, what it looks like, what mindfulness looks like in one environment may not be exactly what it looks like in another. But mindfulness really starts to take hold and make changes in different environments is when it is something that is developed and modified from the inside out. And so by building a community of like-minded people together, you'll be able to take these classical principles of mindfulness, keep them true, understand what it is that they are intended to do, and use them in that way, but still modify them and integrate them into your community in a way that is meaningful to everybody.